Amazing how one click can change your life completely.
Say you're sorry, darling. Say it's all your fault. Say you miss me and you wish that you answered my call. Say you're not done falling. Say our love is hard. Say you're waiting for me, that you wanna press start.
Now he must join forces with the monsters to protect the only place that accepted him and break the defense of an entire empire. In a room with the lights off, there was a young man surrounded by piles of study books. The only light came from his computer. There, isolated, he murmured, 1 billion. If only I had that money, I could escape. In the news that was constantly being published, a man named Kim Yui-soo was running for the political assembly. In several interviews, his son was mentioned, a young man whose reputation seemed to reflect that of his father. The boy, named Kim Ji-hun, was known for frequently appearing near the top of the rankings at the prestigious MANHWA school, catching everyone's attention. While looking at the news about Kim Ji-hun on a cell phone, a pair of girls approached the young man, and one of them jumped to hug him from behind. "Wow, Ji-hun, that photo turned out amazing." Whispering into Kim Ji-hun's ear, the girl who hugged him excitedly said, "I have something to tell you. How about we go outside for a moment?" Seeing Kim Ji-hun leave with the two girls, two young men sitting nearby commented on how jealous they were. Even though he was just a nerd because he was the son of a politician, Kim Ji-hun seemed to be friends with everyone, except someone like that girl. However, what they didn't know was that Kim Ji-hun had been taken to an alley behind the school. There, with the two girls, were two other students who looked more like gangsters. The girl who had previously hugged him excitedly now wore an empty expression and asked him, "Why don't you lend us some money?" With a worried look, Ji-hun reminded her that he had already lent 300,000 the previous week. There was no way he could lend more money so suddenly. However, as soon as he refused, one of the guys who was smoking grabbed him by the neck, looking deeply into his eyes. "Damn, Ji-hun! Should I just report you then? Wasn't it you who made that illegal website?" Hurriedly, Ji-hun tried to deny the accusation. "No, I never said it was for illegal use." Still, the group treated him as an accomplice, and the girl said in a disinterested tone, "Well, we can just give ourselves up. Anyway, who has anything to lose here?" Knowing she was talking about him, Kim Ji-hun felt a strong despair, because due to one mistake, he would tarnish his father's reputation. Touching Kim Ji-hun's chest, the girl encouraged him to get the money. "You can do it. I believe in you." That night, upon returning home, Kim Ji-hun stopped in front of a door. His hand trembled as he approached the doorknob. Frustrated, he blamed himself, convinced he should never have said a word. As soon as he opened the door, Kim Ji-hun was startled by a cold voice. "Are you just going to stand there? Do you have something to say?" Looking up, Kim Ji-hun faced his father. Adjusting his tie with a cold look, Kim Yui-soo stared piercingly at his son. "The elections are coming. Even if you're no help, don't stain my honor." Seeing his son standing there with a frightened look, Kim Yui-soo finished getting ready, questioning why he was silent. Adjusting his backpack on his shoulders, Kim Ji-hun forced a smile and replied, "Don't worry, Dad, I won't disappoint you." But with a cold look, Kim Yui-soo scoffed. "Disappoint me? I don't know if there's anything left to be disappointed about. Just do what I told you." Forcing a smile, Kim Ji-hun nodded. Upon arriving in his room, he panted heavily in front of the computer. Grinding his teeth and biting his lips, he asked the air, "What do you expect me to do? Why are you doing this to me?" Suddenly, Kim Ji-hun felt something cold scratching his hand. He was startled and jumped back, only to realize it was his kitten licking him, who always kept him company. With a more relieved look, he asked, "Ruru, were you worried about me?" The kitten Ruru jumped onto Kim Ji-hun, meowing and playing with his owner while tickling him. Lifting his little black kitten, Ji-hun sighed, "You little pest. Whether at school or at home, I only have you by my side. Ruru, you're all I have." With his cat keeping him company, Kim Ji-hun launched a game, Night Defend. Kim Ji-hun had finally defeated the 99th wave of monsters, and now only one wave remained to conquer the final glory. However, on his screen, the game over notification always appeared, again and again. Frustrated, this was the usual result. Kim Ji-hun was already exhausted from restarting his campaign hundreds of times. He had tried everything he could, but the game was cruel. In the live stream Kim Ji-hun was watching, an angry young man screamed, pulling his own hair, "Enough! This game is trash! It's over! I'm quitting! This wasn't made to be beaten! Guys, don't play this game!" Frowning, Kim Ji-hun watched the stream thinking the same thing. It had been a year since the game's release, and many people had reached the 99th wave, but no one had managed to reach the 100th. But Ji-hun would not give up. not now. To escape such a terrible life with Ruru, he saw that game as his only way. Kim Ji-hun had an item he could trust, obtained by defeating the boss of the 99th wave, the fully upgraded Heart of Rizzeldrak. There was no item with better stats than it. With its 1000 magical attack bonus, 10% critical chance, and 100% critical damage, it was superior to anything else, and gave Kim Ji-hun hope to keep trying. Still, he wondered what else he needed to do. Putting some snacks for himself and Ruru on the table, he paused to rest. Wanting one of the snacks, Ruru walked on the table toward the bag that held them, but at that moment the kitten stepped on the cell phone and accidentally touched the item Kim Ji-hun had been keeping. Ji-hun's eyes showed his shock when he saw which button Ruru had pressed in the item options. A notification appeared on Kim Ji-hun's cell phone screen. Item successfully dismantled. In complete despair, Kim Ji-hun looked at the cell phone screen and the notification. He couldn't believe that everything he had achieved until that moment was lost. Ji-hun put his hands on his head, talking to his cat, Ruru. By dismantling this, I'll have to climb all the waves again from the start. But overwhelmed by frustration, Kim Ji-hun asked himself, even if I start all over, will anything change? But at that moment, he noticed something. By dismantling the item, some materials had been given to him. Among them, an item called Dragon's Soul. He was confused to see the item, since normally only essence fragments were obtained by dismantling equipment. A thought crossed his mind. Immediately, Kim Ji-hun clicked on the newly obtained item and used it. The cell phone screen lit up. Kim Ji-hun thought, this item must be behind the real strategy to defeat the 100th wave. Thus, Kim Ji-hun clicked the button to restart the attempt at the 100th floor. Much had already happened since he started playing that game. Even during classes, he sought information that could help him. He played secretly during classes. At home, he spent hours on the computer testing new strategies, and even on the street, his face rarely left the cell phone screen. Now Kim Ji-hun had found a new path. He had already conquered the 99th wave, and by dismantling the Heart of Rizzeldrak, he discovered a new item. Confidence appeared on his face. After using the Dragon's Soul, he clicked the button to start the 100th wave. On the screen, a small blonde character stood still atop the city walls, casting spells from time to time to defeat the monsters of the 100th wave. Kim Ji-hun hurriedly clicked on the character, making her cast spells and sword attacks. Watching the spells fall on the monsters, their health, and the character's own, decrease, Kim Ji-hun begged, come on, please, this time let's finish this. Unexpectedly, but for the first time in history, a notification appeared on Kim Ji-hun's screen. Victory! Excited, he shouted, I did it! Kim Ji-hun quickly looked back, searching for Ruru, but the only one he found was his father, gloomily holding a golf club, asking, what did you achieve? Surprised, Ji-hun stood up, placing the phone on the table, only to hear his father say in a dark tone what had happened. I received a call from your so-called friends. They tried to extort me using your little crimes. Afraid, Kim Ji-hun tried to explain, saying he never imagined others would use what he created for evil. However, Kim Ui-soo didn't want to talk. Completely terrified before his own father, who seemed darker than ever, Kim Ji-hun took a step back, trying to apologize, assuring him it would never happen again. Still, Kim Ui-soo raised the golf club and furiously brought it down. Kim Ji-hun saw with his own eyes the shards of glass scatter. The golf club had hit the phone screen, shattering it completely, while Kim Ui-soo shouted, Pathetic coward! When have I ever hurt you before? At that moment, looking around the room, Kim Ji-hun asked, Dad, have you seen Ruru? But the answer was cold. That's something you don't need anymore. Kim Ji-hun repeated those words to himself, not yet understanding them, until he ground his teeth furiously as the truth dawned on him. His father, however, pressured him with a frightening look. Why are you looking at me like that? Grinding his teeth, Kim Ji-hun asked again, Where is Ruru? But the answer was even worse. Don't worry, she must be with your mother now, in the afterlife. Despair took over Kim Ji-hun's face, even more so when his father touched his face, showing a manic smile. Just do as I say, and you will have good health, honor, everything you want, so never disappoint me again. Treating his own son as just a tool for his own gains, Kim Ui-soo said coldly, I believe in you. But Kim Ji-hun couldn't take it anymore. Those frightening eyes, that life, being alone again. As he fell to his knees in despair, a robotic voice came from the partially destroyed phone. Congratulations! You are the first player to conquer night defense. But for Kim Ji-hun, it was too late. As tears streamed down the boy's face, he no longer found a reason to run away, a reason to keep enduring that bitter life. Ignoring the young man's pain, the narration from the phone notification continued. You will be invited to my world. At that moment, a lightning bolt, cutting through the silence of the night, struck from the sky and pierced through Kim Ji-hun's bedroom window. At the same time, lightning struck the sky, tearing through the day of a medieval city nestled against rocky cliffs. Amid a church where knights waited attentively, a glow appeared, bringing Kim Ji-hun with it. Surprised, they watched him eagerly. He is here, the one who saved us, the legendary knight. Excitedly, the people cheered and celebrated the arrival of their savior. You have finally arrived. Our savior has come to rescue us. Strangely, Kim Ji-hun felt he was not crying, as if his emotions had been erased and replaced by others. Interrupting the crowd's clamoring, a bearded man cleared his throat, asking for silence to speak with the guest. Are you the legendary savior who saved the kingdom? Seated on a throne, wearing a red cloak, jewels, and an imposing crown, the kingdom's king asked. Even from afar, Kim Ji-hun could see him. He recognized him and saw him as a computer screen, with a subtitle of the question asked. On the throne, the man wearing the crown introduced himself. I am Byrus Jordia III, king of the Jordia kingdom. Legendary knight, the kingdom is in danger. Monsters are invading from all sides and we are struggling to contain them. During the king's speech, a man hurried into the hall shouting, Your Majesty, something urgent has happened. The kingdom's setting, as well as the situation, Kim Ji-hun, still with ears ringing from tears, could recognize. The man reporting to the king was exactly like the introduction of the game Knight Defense. After hearing the man, the king spoke again to Kim Ji-hun. The situation is terrible, so I command you, become the leader of the knights and protect the kingdom. A notification appeared before Kim Ji-hun, a faction selection, asking if he would accept the king's request. Kim Ji-hun stood up. He didn't know if this was a dream, but asked everyone to listen carefully. I don't care anymore about that 1 billion or anything like that. I don't need it anymore. With deep sadness, he remembered Ruru, all the fun moments they had together and how close they were, as well as how losing her affected his will to live. The people of the kingdom were confused by Kim Ji-hun's words, and watching him closely, many questioned if he was too weak for a legendary knight. The king, however, answered Kim Ji-hun, I don't know what this 1 billion you speak of is, but if you become the commander of the knights and protect humans from monsters, whatever your wish is, I will grant it. Surprise and astonishment appeared in Kim Ji-hun's eyes, who asked the king, Anything? You will give me anything? The king replied to Kim Ji-hun, but in a way that reminded him of his worst nightmare. You don't need to worry. Just do as I say, and you will have good health, honor, and everything you want. I believe in you. Unexpectedly, Kim Ji-hun saw his father in that king, in his face and words. Furious, he shouted, I won't do it! The king was surprised, as were all the nobles around the hall, by the legendary knight's words. No matter where I go, everyone only sees me as the son of a politician. That guy, that girl, they all just wanted to use me. And now here too. You want me to become a puppet under the name of legendary knight? The villagers were shocked by the words of the one who should be their savior. Darkly, Kim Ji-hun questioned the king about his words. Health and honor? I don't need that damn nonsense. With a cold look, Kim Ji-hun pressed the reject offer button, while answering everyone. You all fend for yourselves. Thus, the offer was rejected. The man who warned the king about the monster invasion was shocked. He broke out in a cold sweat, asking, Would a legendary knight do that? This can't be happening, right? At the same time, the notification of the request made to Kim Ji-hun began to glitch and change form. Knight Defense. After a certain number of times, monsters attack a kingdom, and the player must defend it. It was a defense game, or at least that's what everyone thought. The notification before Kim Ji-hun changed to a crimson-red tone, and new words appeared. You rejected the human faction. You are now permitted to choose a new faction. Amid shadows and wine, the notification of a secret route appeared. The monster faction was now open. He only needed to press a button to join it. He was surprised, because in a defense game, joining the monster faction had a completely different meaning. He would not defend but attack, causing destruction, panic, and chaos. The king, who had remained silent, gloomily stated, All choices come with consequences. The king then shouted for everyone in the hall to hear, This person is no longer a legendary knight. He deceived me, the king, causing danger to this nation and its people. He is now an enemy. Knights of the kingdom, seize him! Immediately, a wave of knights moved, blocking Kim Ji-hun's path and marching furiously against him, with rage in their eyes. Sighing, the protagonist saw himself begin to be surrounded. He had endured many things up to this moment, and now he could endure no more. In the face of the siege and the blades flying toward him, Kim Ji-hun ground his teeth violently. In the next instant, a red glow appeared on his body, falling from the skies. The king was shocked by what happened before his very eyes, in the middle of his royal hall, in his palace. A change had occurred in the body of that former legendary knight. With the faction selection completed, a dark being appeared before Kim Ji-hun, extending a hand toward him. That being extended its power to the young man, causing several notifications to appear. You now exceed human limits. You incite hostility in humans. Monsters are now interested in you. You now understand the language of monsters. Finally, the most important notification appeared. The monster faction's goal is to destroy the human faction. From now on, Kim Ji-hun found himself at the moment to attack. As the energy surrounding him rose to the skies, amid the power of the Crimson Sun, goblins, orcs, and all kinds of monsters appeared outside the kingdom. The first wave was about to begin in 10 minutes. The monster faction had only one goal as its ultimate objective: to annihilate the human faction. Kim Ji-hun, who had been tasked with this mission, would receive a reward upon completion, the chance to obtain an item from that world, as well as return to his original world. Thinking of a specific item, Kim Ji-hun remembered his mother from the time she had adopted Ruru to keep them company. With the item he imagined obtaining, he silently said, "With this, I could go back to that time." In the king's hall, the various knights had surrounded Kim Ji-hun after a great commotion. The siege was complete and he had no escape route. Many were still disturbed by the explosion of energy that had just occurred, an energy seriously malicious. The king, seated on the throne, frowned. He realized the man had taken the form of a monster, perhaps something even worse. The energy Bayris had just felt was something he had never seen before. Kim Ji-hun looked around, analyzing what had just happened. Choosing a faction had never been something that existed in the original game. Changing factions, he waited for something to happen. And just as he waited, a notification appeared before him. The main mission, Monster Faction's Oath. Its instructions were that he had to break through the soldiers' defense and attack the humans, to receive as a reward a random item box. Looking at the mission, Ji-hun saw a change in it compared to what he had seen in the game, but it still followed the original progression. This made him expect that next would come a random rank S knight ticket, a character. However, unlike the ticket he expected, Ji-hun received an egg. Normally in the human faction, the player would start with a knight, but by choosing the monster faction, he received a random rank S monster egg, which he could hatch immediately. Understanding the changes, Kim Ji-hun accepted to hatch the egg. Immediately, a burst of light erupted in the middle of the hall, scattering eggshells in all directions. A mist arose amid the destruction, where a pair of wings was revealed. The knights were shocked, believing something had been summoned. Kim Ji-hun knew that monster very well, which surprised him to receive it right at the start of his campaign. It was the most powerful dragon boss, the one that appeared on Wave 99, the cold-blooded dragon, Rizeldrak, the red terror of the battlefield. Kim Ji-hun was certain, if Rizeldrak were summoned in the center of the human city, the entire faction would be crushed instantly. However, an unexpected turn happened. Instead of a huge dragon like the one he knew from the 99th floor, Ji-hun found only a happy baby. Shock appeared on Ji-hun's face. The dragon was only level 1, which unexpectedly also meant it was 1 year old. The little dragon Rizeldrak saw a hand slowly approach its body, and since it was its master's hand, it stuck out its tongue, unexpectedly licking him. Feeling the wet and rough tongue, Kim Ji-hun couldn't help but murmur, "Ruru." Confused, the little dragon looked sideways at Ji-hun. As soon as he obtained the small summon, Ji-hun also received a skill, Sovereign's Eye. Quickly checking the passive skill, he discovered he could see monsters and items' stats. The knights, who had until then been still, gritted their teeth, trying to encourage each other not to fear just a small monster. Raising their swords and spears, they all charged at Ji-hun at once. The protagonist no longer cared whether this was a dream or not. His decision had been made upon seeing the little dragon. Looking at a certain area, he locked his target, causing a magic circle to appear in his eye. He was looking right at Rizeldrak. Using his Sovereign's Eye skill, Ji-hun found in the little dragon a skill, Dragon's Breath. Trusting his dragon's skill, Kim Ji-hun ordered, "Rizeldrak, use Dragon's Breath." Immediately, the little dragon gathered a large amount of dark energy in front of its open mouth. The armed knights jumped at Kim Ji-hun to eliminate him, to prevent the dragon from attacking. Ji-hun was startled to see spears and swords coming toward his body, but before he was touched, the sphere of dark energy in front of Rizeldrak imploded, only to explode the next moment, wiping out the guards before it. The dragon's breath crossed the entire royal hall, tearing the air and those in front of it in a crimson beam. The castle exploded, and the energy from Rizeldrak's attack leaked, tearing the city's sky, showing no signs of stopping. With the powerful strike, part of the castle broke off and was thrown against the city, where the villagers, shocked, could do nothing to stop the massive stone weighing thousands of tons. A circumference of at least several dozen meters was opened in the castle wall by Rizeldrak's strike, which even shaped the clouds with its attack. An incredulous expression appeared on Kim Ji-hun's face. Even so small, the dragon possessed overwhelming strength. Nobles and knights fell to the ground, not believing what was before their eyes. On both sides, people, mouths agape, commented, "It's a being of darkness. What did he summon?" A small smile appeared on Kim Ji-hun's dark face. This had been easier than he thought it would be. According to his mission, all he needed was to conquer the castle, to then return to his original world carrying an item with him. In the game Night Defense, there were tons of items, and Kim Ji-hun firmly believed that one of them had the power he needed. There was no reason to rush. There was no urgency for Ji-hun to go home at that moment. That was why, for now, alongside Rizaldrak, he decided to focus on completing all the missions. After many fled the hall, Kim Ji-hun addressed the king. "Hey you, representative of the human faction. From now on, I will be the one to sweep you all away." The king frowned as he saw things worsen by the moment. Holding the uninterested little dragon, Ji-hun declared, "After all, I have to earn my reward." As the sky darkened and the smoke caused by the destruction in the palace spread across the city's skies, some people moved everywhere. A young woman with golden hair tied in a ponytail was surprised to see what was happening at the palace. Carrying a spear, she ran inside. "Hold on, please, your majesty, I'm coming." Inside the palace, while facing the king, the protagonist asked the little dragon, "Rizaldrak, that attack from earlier, please use it once more." Upon hearing what Ji-hun had just said, the counselor quickly shouted, "Squires, protect the king! 2 layers of protection! No, 3 layers!" The knights obeyed, even knowing that no matter how many layers they created, it would be useless. Extending his hand, the protagonist commanded the little Rizaldrak, who began to gather the energy of the dragon's breath. "The target is the king." At the same time, a gray-haired knight was running toward the palace, quickly approaching the great door. 4 layers of squires stood in front of the king, ready to protect him. The tension inside the palace increased every moment, while the dragon's breath sphere grew larger and larger. However, just as the palace door was opened, the little dragon's attack failed and dissipated. The knight entering the palace smiled cheerfully upon seeing the king. "Your Majesty, you are safe." The counselor was confused to see the dragon's attack fail. In Ji-hun's eyes, a shock appeared. From his knowledge, when knights used abilities, they consumed a certain amount of mana points. But looking again at Rizeldrak's ability, he discovered that the little dragon had the same limitation. Ignoring the special attack's failure, Ji-hun commanded, "Rizeldrak, launch a regular fireball." However, the little dragon only spat an attack that fell on the ground a few centimeters away from him. Both Ji-hun and Rizeldrak were shocked by the sudden change. Kim Ji-hun cursed himself for having thought things would be easy. Now, he had no choice but to wait for the ability's cooldown. At that moment, the knight in golden armor who had entered the palace began walking toward Ji-hun, questioning, "Are you the arrogant bastard who dared to target the king's life?" Looking at the knight, Ji-hun recalled his knowledge about such classes. In Knight Defense, there were several classes of knights, from rank D, Apprentice Knight, through rank C, B, A, and finally rank S, the Elite Knight. Among the 12 elite rank S Knights known as the Zodiac Knights, he recognized the one before him now as Ares. Muscular and carrying a spear, Ares arrogantly positioned himself in the palace. At that moment, the king's voice was heard. "Ares, the strongest knight of the kingdom!" Upon being summoned, Ares addressed the king. "Your Majesty, are you well?" Ji-hun felt things were getting worse as the king in front of the knights ordered Ares, "War is imminent. Eliminate the palace intruders immediately." While disdain appeared on the knight's face, a strong flame appeared on his spear as he nodded in agreement to the king's order. "As you command." Kim Ji-hun tried to think of something in the last moments. He didn't want to have come here only to be eliminated on the first day, in the first hours. Then he remembered something, the main quest reward, which had not been obtained after completion. As Ares' spear sliced through the notification, frightening Kim Ji-hun, the protagonist shouted, "Give me the reward now!" As soon as Kim Ji-hun accepted the reward, Ares' spear hit something solid that materialized in front of him. Ares was surprised to hit a chest, believing it to be a summoning spell. Looking at the chest, Kim Ji-hun saw a golden glow emerge after the lid was opened. From the magic chest, a sword began to appear, making the scene even more surprising. A glow of light took shape in front of Ji-hun. The red sword appeared like a miraculous item emerging from a dimensional portal inside the chest. Still surprised, the protagonist used the Sovereign's Eye to analyze the sword. The name of this crimson ruby sword was Hellbringer, an S-rank item that provided 9,909 attack power, with the ability to add extra attributes. This sword brought rupture and chaos, and legend said that one day it would unleash the underworld itself. Rizeldrak's eyes shone with curiosity upon seeing the item, while his own master, still shocked, could not believe that an S-rank item had been obtained in his very first random loot box draw. Kim Ji-hun didn't know who had summoned him to that world, but somehow he felt this being wanted him to wipe out the entire human faction. The sword fell heavily to the ground, its tip destroying the soil. Standing upright, it waited before its owner, ready to be lifted. However, surprise appeared in Ji-hun's eyes when a chain reaction occurred. With the hole that had been made in the wall, many cracks had formed, and with the new ones created by the sword, part of the palace collapsed like an avalanche of destruction. Kim Ji-hun was thrown out of the palace through the hole in the wall, experiencing a free fall from the castle perched atop a mountain. Screaming in fear, he could not stop the fall, which was getting faster and faster. In the midst of his fall, he cursed. "What kind of rotten palace is this that it can't even handle the weight of a sword?" Kim Ji-hun saw the ground approaching every second. Fear appeared on his face because he hadn't done anything he wanted yet. He didn't want his end to be imminent. He didn't want to become a pancake. But in the last meter before hitting the ground, Kim Ji-hun felt something grab his shirt, preventing him from turning into a puddle. Surprised and looking down at the ground below, he wondered what had happened to stop his fall. Above Kim Ji-hun, two red wings were flapping hurriedly. Straining to the utmost to carry his owner, Rizeldrak saved Kim Ji-hun from the imminent fall, making him extremely happy as he remembered that his summon really was a dragon. Throughout the city, people looked up surprised. What is that? A bird? A flying saucer? It's a person flying. Despite having survived, a certain anxiety appeared in Kim Ji-hun's eyes. He had almost been eliminated. Starting in the middle of enemy territory was truly a ridiculous opening for a campaign. However, thanks to this, he discovered something important: the difference between his powers and those of the Empire. Currently, the Empire only had Ares, since the campaign was just beginning, but rank S Knights would appear soon, and precisely because of that, Kim Ji-hun needed to become stronger. Flying over the city while carried by Rizeldrak, Ji-hun returned to the main topic. For now, escaping the Empire comes first. At the same time, inside the palace, Ares pointed his spear to his own neck. Overwhelmed by a huge feeling of guilt that fueled his fury, how could I let the one who insulted the king escape? How dare I call myself an elite knight? I'm useless and pathetic, a man worth nothing who can't even repay the king's blessings. While Ares drowned in self-judgment, someone poked him. "Hey, the king is calling." Ares opened his eyes upon hearing about the king and immediately knelt, apologizing. "Forgive me, your majesty. Please punish me for what I did. I let the invader escape." The king reassured the rank S knight and reminded him, "The sun is setting, you know what that means, right?" Looking at the horizon, Ares commented, "The monsters will grow stronger." The king appointed Ares as the commander of the war, ordering him, "Go to the walls and defend the kingdom." After Ares left the palace in silence, the king contemplated everything that had happened. While Ares prepared, a young man and his dragon flew over the city. Being carried, the protagonist had time to think. Knight Defense offered a huge prize of 1 billion, but it had been forgotten by the public due to the game's difficulty. The monster wave most criticized for its low difficulty balance was precisely the first wave, Wild Goblins. Unless the player started by drawing an S-rank knight with an area attack skill, it was almost impossible to stop them. However, since the kingdom currently had Ares, who possessed the fire element and an area skill, it was unlikely that the first wave would break through the wall. Stopping to think about Ares, Ji-hun realized that if, instead of him, a rogue-type knight had crossed the gates, he wouldn't even be alive at this moment. Snapping out of his thoughts, Kim Ji-hun looked down and was startled. He realized he was getting lower and lower. Rizeldrak was doing his best to fly carrying Kim Ji-hun, but the poor dragon was growing more and more tired, causing them to fly at an increasingly lower altitude. Ji-hun encouraged the little dragon, as he could already see the kingdom's gate. Just a little more and they would leave the city. However, Rizeldrak ended up dropping him after losing his strength. Kim Ji-hun screamed in fear as he was dropped by the dragon, because in front of him was a large stone brick pillar. The impact could not be avoided. A great curtain of dust rose as Ji-hun crashed into the wall. Gritting his teeth, the protagonist got up, scratching his back. Still, he was surprised that although he had hit the wall, his body was in perfect condition. This meant his body was not that of an ordinary human. While brushing the dust off his clothes, Ji-hun noticed a pair of boots beside him. Thinking they had no owner, Ji-hun decided to put them on. But at that moment, someone approached, questioning him. "That outfit of yours, I've never seen it before. Who are you?" Shock appeared in Ji-hun's eyes upon seeing the person before him. Blonde hair tied in a ponytail. She was none other than an S-rank knight. Her name was Lib. Fulfilling her role to secure the city, the knight approached, demanding, "Show me your identification." The reason Ji-hun had been able to handle the 100th wave while playing in the real world was because of a character no one could stop. Despite being rank S, Lib was considered less efficient in defense than B-rank knights. She was only used for dungeon raids or adventures. She was the abandoned knight. However, by using the dragon's soul on this supposedly inferior character, she had become the key to his victory. Lib extended her sword toward Kim Ji-hun, demanding once again, "Hurry up and identify yourself." Standing before the knight's sword, the protagonist named her, leaving her confused. You know me? With a furrowed brow, Jihun spoke fearlessly. I know you very well. You caused me hundreds of failures before I fully understood your worth. Frowning even more, Lib questioned what he meant. Lib had been the ultimate key to Jihun's strategy, but now that the factions had changed, she had become the one Jihun planned to eliminate first. The young knight with the golden ponytail had become a stumbling block for Kim Jihun. Outside the walls, the sky began to darken. Goblins, already awaiting the siege, growled fiercely. On the walls, soldiers preparing to defend drew arrows from their quivers, ready to attack the monsters approaching the ramparts. The horde of enraged goblins carried clubs and large bones used as weapons. Their sole goal was to reach the kingdom's walls, break down the gate, and invade the ramparts. However, the humans would not allow it. At the command, a rain of arrows was launched at the goblins, who began to fall one after another. But the number of goblins was astonishing. They managed to reach the walls and began climbing them, yet the humans were prepared. They started dropping huge stones on the climbing goblins, knocking them down from great heights. The war had begun. A swarm of goblins surrounded the walls, while archers and knights defended their posts. But as the goblins' advance became more persistent than the humans could handle, the defenders began to think they might not hold out any longer. Gritting his teeth, a knight called his commander, even asking if he was still alive. But just as the knights felt desperate, a helper ran to announce, "Ares is coming!" The soldier who had been complaining just a minute before became extremely excited upon hearing that Ares would be present. Soon shouts ran along the wall. "Hold firm, we must hold out!" While the commotion happened outside, Lib kept her sword pointed at the unknown man, demanding an answer. "Who are you? Where are you from? We are currently at war. If you don't answer, I will have to judge for myself." Although wanting to eliminate Lib immediately to prevent the worst-case scenario, Jihun knew he couldn't do it. In close combat, there was no way he could defeat an S-rank knight no matter what. Unable to defeat even one knight at this moment, Jihun chose another path, retreat. Raising his hand and smiling innocently, he introduced himself. "Actually, I'm just a normal citizen from District 1. I only wanted to contribute to the war effort, but I got lost." Amid Kim Ji-hoon's lies, Rizeldrak, who had been buried in the ground after the fall, freed himself, jumping excitedly. The little dragon immediately caught Lib's attention, who raised an eyebrow and looked at him. "A monster? Why is there a monster inside the royal palace grounds? Don't tell me that explosion earlier was caused by him?" Rizeldrak jumped excitedly around Kim Ji-hoon, who under the tip of the sword was sweating as if inside a sauna. He knew Lib would start suspecting he was an accomplice, and if that happened, there would be no turning back. Quickly, he thought about asking Rizeldrak to carry him away, since Lib had no ranged attacks and wouldn't be able to hit him. However, there was no way to fly with the knight so close. Suddenly, the knight turned around, confusing Jihun by stating, "I already understand the situation." Confused, the protagonist asked why she was turning her back on him if she had understood what was happening. Then, ignoring Jihun, Lib stared at the little dragon, revealing her thoughts. "You must be a citizen being chased by the monster that attacked the royal palace. Stay behind me, I will protect you." Confused, the little Rizeldrak looked curiously at the knight. Faced with that gaze, the knight swallowed hard. Rizeldrak stared at her with a pure, sweet look, like a child asking for a hug. The knight began to tremble and blush, trying to force herself to attack him but failing. Watching her, Jihun understood what kind of personality Lib had. While they talked, a great explosion of flames happened outside the walls. When Lib looked toward the explosion, the protagonist signaled Rizeldrak, pointing in a direction. The pair quickly united. Rizeldrak grabbed Jihun, and both fled before the knight realized. When Lib looked back around, she realized both the boy and the monster had disappeared. At that moment, a knight found the knight. "Lib, there you are. Let's go to the main gate." The main gate mentioned by the knight was currently under attack. Several blows shook the gate, and the knights inside trembled in fear of what was coming. Little by little, the gate began to crack. The wood could no longer hold. Lib walked among the guards, calling attention. "Everyone, put away your bows and prepare for close combat." Goblins threw themselves against the main gate, while a giant orc walked toward it with a huge club. The giant monster, ignoring the arrows shot from the walls, raised his spiked club, roaring furiously. His attack, heavier than all the goblins combined, hit the gate, making its destruction even more imminent. The knights, anxious, gripped their swords. Many of them trembled. In everyone's eyes, the spiked club pierced the kingdom's gate, opening a large hole. Immediately, Lib imbued light power into her sword, shouting, "Prepare to attack!" Breaking down the gate, the great orc roared fiercely in the name of his conquest, a liberating war cry for his companions to follow him in the invasion. The goblin horde, led by the orc, invaded the city, and before them, Lib, leading the humans, charged swiftly. Watching the battle about to begin, Ares appeared, calling the knight. "Commander, I haven't even arrived yet, and the gates are already down." Furiously, he shouted, "You useless trash! Immediately, he released his powerful area skill, Flame Wall, sweeping everything in its path toward the monsters. The goblins couldn't escape and were caught in the attack. Seeing his strike hit directly, Ares placed his spear on his shoulder, smiling victoriously. "Dance for me, you filthy monsters, until I feel better." In the mountains, far from the kingdom, Kim Ji-hun watched the battle unfold. With a furrowed brow, the player who had survived all 100 waves observed the first one from a perspective never before faced. This time, he was on the other side of the story. This time, he was seeking to fulfill the monster's ultimate goal, annihilate humanity. To accomplish this, he needed to completely crush the kingdom within 100 attempts. Watching the contemplative master, Rizeldrak approached, receiving the affectionate pat from the young man who wished to go back in time. Confident, Ji-hun held the little dragon, who began to play in the rain, silently asking, "Just wait a little longer. When I return, this will be your end." Just as the first wave ended with the humans' victory, annihilating the monsters, with the contemplative Lib looking toward the horizon, Ji-hun swore, while being watched by a being deep within the dark forest. From the mountain where he stood, Ji-hun observed the kingdom and the castle where his journey had begun. Then, turning around, he faced the great dark forest, the place where he would be from now on. Thinking about the monster faction, he wondered what might lie ahead. There was no such route in night defense, so he didn't know what would happen. Kim Ji-hun had already restarted the game hundreds of times trying to survive all 100 waves. Thanks to that, he knew the kingdom's power like the back of his hand. However, the forest beneath the mountain was not the kingdom. From here on, he would be facing a new beginning, completely from scratch. Before entering the forest, Ji-hun remembered something important. Rizeldrak, the little dragon, was also with him. Curiously, Rizeldrak flew toward the dark forest, leaving Ji-hun behind. Following the little dragon, the protagonist came across a trail of ants. The dragon stopped in front of the ants, who trembled in fear upon seeing him, but the little dragon just stopped and sat on the ground, watching them curiously. Watching the dragon, Ji-hun increasingly felt that he resembled a cat and acted like one. Putting that aside, the protagonist wondered what he should do now. Letting Rizeldrak follow his curiosity about the ants, Ji-hun waited for something else to appear and soon saw the notification window appear once again. The second main mission appeared: stabilize the monster faction, unite all monsters, and create a faction. As a reward, he would receive a random skill. Thinking about how he could complete the mission, the protagonist wondered if he would need to recruit the monsters himself. Monsters typically found at the beginning of the game, like goblins, had low intelligence, so he didn't think he could do much. Despite that, not even goblins were in sight. Ji-hun tried looking around, but not a single rat appeared. He didn't know how he would talk to monsters if he hadn't found any. While Ji-hun was lost in thought, a shadow crossed the forest. Hearing a noise, Ji-hun looked surprised toward the trees, and before he could realize, an attack came his way from a woman who shouted fiercely, "Accept your end, human!" Ji-hun saw the attack heading for him, but unexpectedly it stopped a few centimeters from his neck, releasing only a powerful gust of wind against him. The grass on the ground swayed strongly under the wind, then stabilized again. Ji-hun had closed his eyes out of fear but slowly opened them when he realized he hadn't been hit. Surprised that the attack had stopped, he still saw sharp claws in front of his neck. However, something surprised him even more. Long hair fluttered in the air, for in front of him was a beast woman. "Are you a rabbit?" Irritated, the beast woman shook her ears and growled, "Do I look like a cute bunny to you? If you look closely, my ears are fox ears." The protagonist tried to correct himself, saying he hadn't called her cute, but cutely irritated, she pointed to her own ears. "You did say it! You said it! I heard it loud and clear!" Observing the white fox, Kim Ji-hun analyzed her until he reached a conclusion, revealing, "Ah, you're an Arctic fox." The foxwoman approached Ji-hun, sniffing him. She sniffed him for several minutes, his legs, arms, back, circling him continuously, analyzing Ji-hun's scent to understand more about him. After a dose of sniffing, the Arctic fox raised an eyebrow, confused. "This is very strange. He clearly looks like a human, but why does he smell like a monster?" Confused, Ji-hun repeated her last words, questioning. To unravel the mystery, he looked at himself, discovering through a notification that 2 passive skills had been permanently activated. The first passive was monster communication. It allowed him to communicate with other monsters. The second passive was sympathetic monster. He would have an inexplicable sympathy for monsters. Reading the passives, he understood why he could talk to the beast woman. Seeing the human with a monster's scent talking to himself again, the foxwoman frowned, irritated at being ignored. She then pointed a finger at him, questioning, "You! Who are you?" Faced with an extremely sharp claw, Kim Ji-hun trembled in fear, trying to find an excuse to explain himself. While stammering, Ji-hun tried to look again at his passive skills. He hadn't expected to be in this situation, since the sympathetic monster skill was supposed to attract monsters' affection. Suddenly, amid the confusion, something passed before Kim Ji-hun's eyes. He only noticed the attack when red liquid splattered after an arrow hit its target. From the forest, a group of 3 men appeared, a muscular one, a disinterested one, and a short, bald, smiling one. Carrying a hand crossbow, the short one celebrated, "We finally got one." The arrow shot was connected to a rope in that man's hand, which left Ji-hun confused. Were there people outside the royal palace? Is this some kind of bandit group? Gritting her teeth, the fox girl cursed, "I knew it, you're a human." With a wounded leg, she fell to the ground, furious at Ji-hun. "You set a trap. You're hunting us? What do you want?" Surprised, Ji-hun tried to explain, "No, it's not like that. It's all a misunderstanding." While the protagonist spoke with the fox girl, the short man passed the rope to the muscular one beside him. He violently pulled the rope, and with it, the fox girl who was tied to the arrow. With the strength he had, the man pulled the fox girl, preparing to attack her as soon as she got close enough. The fox woman was scared to see his intent but couldn't dodge. Kim Ji-hun was shocked to see what was happening. With all his strength, the man struck the fox woman, leaving no chance for evasion. He smiled, malicious and confident, but the expected result did not happen. Even having been hit, the fox woman kept a brave look on her face. She spun her body, kicking with her free leg in a counterattack. This time it was the muscular man who had no time to dodge. He could only see the leg approaching his face. In the next instant, he was thrown to the ground by the powerful kick he suffered. The bald short man gritted his teeth in shock and fury at what had happened, although the third group member didn't even care. Watching the scene, Ji-hun asked surprised, "That guy was knocked down with just one kick?" Despite having knocked down the most muscular one in the group, the fox girl with a swollen leg fell to the ground. Irritated, the bald man with the hand crossbow approached her, cursing, "That damn beast dared to kick a human." Furious, he returned the kicks she had thrown at his partner while cursing her. Faced with such a scene, Ji-hun felt something was wrong. He didn't believe she should be hunted by humans just for being a monster. Amid his anger, he saw the third group member approach him. The disinterested man, while chewing a plant, asked, "You okay, man? Things could have gone bad for you. This area is full of beastmen. What are you doing here alone?" Faced with the question, Ji-hun was left speechless. He looked ahead, seeing the fox girl growl in feral language. The bald, short man, not understanding what she said, became furious. He raised a club, growling, "Are you trying to talk nonsense, you damn beast?" A fury appeared in Ji-hun's eyes. However, at the same time, the man who had been disinterested in his own group opened his mouth to stop the bald man. "Enough. She won't make it out alive like this." The bald, short man stopped his attack halfway, apologizing hurriedly. "Sorry, I got carried away again." The protagonist sighed, seeing they had stopped attacking the fox girl, but the man beside him hadn't ended the matter. He looked at Ji-hun, showing all his teeth maliciously and questioning. "Hey man, you were talking to that beast just now, weren't you?" Ji-hun felt a sharp pain in his belly, and looking down, found a blade in that man's hand. Dropping the blade, the man smiled, stating, "If we had known someone like you was here, we wouldn't have had all that trouble." The blade fell to the ground while Ji-hun quickly pressed his own belly, gritting his teeth, not understanding why he had been attacked. Even the fox woman was surprised by the sudden attack. Kim Ji-hun felt a strong bitterness in his mouth. His whole body burned inside. That was poison. The disinterested man put his hand in his shirt pocket while commenting, "Don't worry, I avoided the vital points, but you only have 12 hours. Affected by the poison, Ji-hun coughed violently, expelling a thick liquid. While wiping his stained lips, he looked up and saw the man carrying a small vial, revealing, "This is the antidote. If you want to survive, translate for us." The muscular man who had recovered lifted the beast woman, and while everyone gathered, the man with the antidote ordered, "Find out where the fox's den is located." Looking at the now captured fox woman, the protagonist repeated the request, still confused. Meanwhile, the little dragon, Rizeldrak, who had gone to hunt ants, returned. Kim Ji-hun was confused when he heard about the fox's den, and soon the man who attacked him explained, "That's just a rude name we use to call the place where they live. Anyway, there's a village where beastmen live. If you help us find it, you will live." Simple as that. Gritting his teeth, Ji-hun asked why they wanted to find that village. Weakly, the foxwoman spoke to Ji-hun. "If you take them to the village, everyone will be in danger." Suddenly, she opened her mouth, stuck out her tongue, and before Ji-hun's eyes, she closed it, biting down with her sharp teeth. The foxwoman ended up biting the hand of the muscular man who was holding her, and he acted quickly. Ji-hun understood what she wanted to do, cut her own tongue to protect the village. The big guy was furious with the foxwoman. His hand was pierced by her teeth, turning red with blood. The careless man sighed, commenting, "All the half-foxes we catch don't last a day. How are we going to find their den like this?" Irritated, the muscular man launched an attack, making the foxwoman cough heavily and pull her fangs out of his hand. The fox was handed over to the group leader, who added to the previous comment, "These creatures don't value their own lives." Immediately, he ordered 2 subordinates to fall back and watch the surroundings in case there were more beastmen in the area. Ji-hun knew foxes as clever animals. Even if they didn't understand human language, they could sense danger. Left alone with Kim Ji-hun and the fox woman, the group leader asked, "Translate for us, companion. Guide us to the fox's den. We'll take what we want and leave right after. So relax." Frowning, Ji-hun asked what they were going to take. With a slight smile, the man revealed, "Our boss lost something. We will find it, and then you and the beastmen will be left alive." Staring into that man's eyes, Ji-hun caught the same gleam he had seen in those who stole his money. Behind that look was a lie. However, in Ji-hun's situation, not even the lie mattered. He wanted to have what he wanted. He wanted at least to be useful. Kim Ji-hun's last hope in that situation was that he would not be eliminated by the group. Determined to do everything not to perish yet, he stepped forward. Walking up to the fox woman, he said, "Take these people to the village, then no one will get hurt." The fox woman, however, remained silent. Curious, the muscular man asked, "Can he really speak the monster's language like you said, boss?" After some silence, the young fox opened her mouth. "You seem different from other humans. Maybe I was too cautious, but more than 100 beastmen live in that village. Can I trust your words that no one will get hurt?" Shocked, this time it was Ji-hun who went silent. He ended up looking away and murmured to the fox woman, "I'm not on humanity's side. You can trust me. These people are evil." Ji-hun suddenly stopped talking to the fox woman. Looking up with his mouth open, an angry shadow had appeared behind the mercenary group leader, the little dragon, Rizal. As the dragon opened his mouth, preparing his dragon breath attack, the group leader, unaware of what was happening behind him, asked, "Why did you stop translating?" Stammering, not knowing how to continue, Ji-hun faced Rizal. The dragon was gathering more and more energy in his mouth, so Ji-hun needed to buy time. Watching the boy, the group leader frowned, wondering why his behavior had changed. At that moment, the bald man in the group who was watching the surroundings noticed a monster behind their leader. Looking closely, he saw the energy building up in front of the little flying monster's mouth. Hurriedly, he shouted, "Boss, behind you, dodge!" The uninterested man looked back and, surprised, saw a glow of energy before him. Knowing Rizal, Ji-hun knew it was already too late for the man to try to dodge. Afraid of the dragon's breath, the group leader's eyes widened as he murmured, "Someone save me! Please spare me!" Rizal unleashed his dragon breath. But instead of the powerful attack he had used at the castle, he once again only spat a little energy, which fell to the ground beside the man. The entire hillside fell into complete silence after the dragon's failed attack. Ji-hun, open-mouthed, felt extreme shame. The bandits, also open-mouthed, couldn't believe the broken expectation. And even Rizal himself, open-mouthed, was shocked for not having been able to attack again. Gritting his teeth, Ji-hun realized the dragon breath skill's cooldown time had not yet been fulfilled. On the ground, the grass where Rizal's attack had fallen turned to ashes. Seeing the ground melt, even without the monster using full force, the muscular man trembled with fear, because that blow could still seriously injure someone. Furious, the group leader grabbed a stick and shouted, "I'm not married yet, you damn fly!" He attacked the little dragon with all his strength. Kim Ji-hun was incredulous to see Rizal being hit. The poor dragon was thrown far away, falling heavily to the ground. Dizzy, Rizal seemed to faint. Irritated, the man bit his lip. "How dare that thing try to melt me?" Surprised and confused as he approached Rizal, the bald man asked, "Boss, we've never seen a monster like this. What do we do? It must be worth a high price if we capture it." To Ji-hun's surprise, the man answered unexpectedly, "I don't need that." Walking over to the dragon, he snorted, "How dare he ambush me? I'll deal with him personally. You two keep an eye on them." Rizal, unconscious, was unaware he was in danger. Fury filled Ji-hun's heart, who mocked himself. "Just because I can talk to monsters, do I think I can survive? Even here, I keep evaluating my worth pathetically, like in my previous life. That's why, even knowing this world's future, I remain weak." Remembering how weak he had been in his past life, even in his last moments, Ji-hun felt a deep desire to do everything he could to not regret losing anything more. With an extremely furious look, the bandit leader raised his stick, putting all his strength into his arm. The fox woman didn't notice when Ji-hun passed by her. Walking toward the man, Ji-hun was going to show exactly who was useless. Possessing a passive skill, monstrous physicality that transcended human strength, he moved. Before the man with the stick could realize, a fist was already in front of his face. With Ji-hun's punch, the man disappeared from where he was, tearing the ground as he was dragged, lifting stones and gravel, while spilling the antidote potion into the air. The fox woman was shocked to see the scene, as were the man's henchmen. They worried about their boss, who, fallen to the ground, had one side of his face completely swollen in total confusion. Standing where he had delivered the blow, Kim Ji-hun looked down with a dark expression. The vial with the antidote had fallen to the ground, spilling its liquid into the dirt, wasting it. The foxwoman, observing Kim Ji-hun, was confused. Moments before, she had seen in his eyes the suffering caused by the poisoned blade and couldn't understand how he was moving so well. Surprised, she saw the young man move again. In silence, Kim Ji-hun crouched down, picking up Rizeldrak in his arms. The protagonist held the little dragon carefully, aware of his intentions. "Rizeldrak, you came here to save me, didn't you?" Weakly, the dragon tried to smile despite the pain he also felt. Ji-hun observed the little dragon's dirty face, as well as his smile, and smiling the same way said, leaving Rizel curious, "You remind me of that child." With Ruru in his mind and the moments they spent together, Ji-hun said, "She was always by my side, giving me strength and making me smile in difficult times. She was my only true friend I could count on." Curious, Rizeldrak opened his eyes, staring at the melancholic young man. With a smile, even if weak, Ji-hun made a lifelong promise. "I will protect you no matter what." Despite having defeated the leader of that group of hunters, Ji-hun still had problems to face. The muscular man put the boss on his own back, while the bald man growled, "You bastard! Do you have any idea who our boss is? If the boss finds out about this, you're done for." Faced with the threatening words, Ji-hun looked coldly at the three, with a frightening shadow in his eyes. Seeing the boy's dark aura, both the bald man and the muscular man took a step back, sweating with fear. They immediately fled, running into the forest while shouting, "Just wait and you'll see." After the victory, Rizeldrak recovered, stood up, celebrating with a small roar. However, another person was no longer standing. Before Rizel could realize, Kim Ji-hun collapsed like a felled tree. The young man fell to the ground with all his weight, catching everyone by surprise. The foxwoman, who was already surprised to see him walking, was even more surprised to see him fall. Little Rizel, worried and confused, hurriedly circled Ji-hun, trying to wake him up, pushing him with his cute little paws. Maintaining a trace of consciousness, Ji-hun wondered if this would be his end. Having the worried face of Rizel as the last thing he saw before fainting, he asked himself, "What will happen if I don't survive?" In his dreams, Kim Ji-hun saw himself in a hospital room beside his mother's bedside. A mixture of sadness and fury overflowed within him, directed at the bastard who didn't even come to see her. Sometime later, Ji-hun unexpectedly woke up, slowly opening his eyes. Wondering where he was, he began to take in the surroundings, stone walls and ceiling. Worried about him, the foxwoman carrying him said, "You shouldn't move." Weak, realizing he was being carried on her back, the protagonist asked why she had saved him. Silently, she continued carrying him through the cave. Sometime later, after passing through the cave, the pair arrived at a valley between mountains. As soon as they arrived, they heard a voice, "Rhea is back! She brought a human with her!" Several beast women with rabbit ears quickly approached. They all stopped to observe the human who was left resting, and one of them dared to say, "He really looks like a human, but something about him seems different." Blushing slightly, another commented, "For some reason, I find him likable." The group of rabbit women watched Kim Ji-hun through the window attentively, and after counting the hours, believing the poison had been neutralized, wondered when he would wake up. What they didn't know was that Ji-hun had been awake for a long time. He was just pretending to sleep out of embarrassment at being watched. With everyone looking at him like that, he even blushed. Interrupting the curiosity of the rabbit women and children, the foxwoman who had saved him, Rhea, clapped her hands to get attention. "Everyone, could you please give us some space? Our guest won't be able to rest comfortably if you keep making noise." Upon seeing Rhea, many of those beast people asked if the human had really saved the girl, but asking to leave questions for later, she approached the wooden house. Ji-hun, attentive, heard the foxwoman's voice and recognized her. The fox girl entered the house with arms crossed, staring at Ji-hun, who was pretending to sleep, and asked, "You're awake, aren't you?" Silently, Ji-hun turned his face to look at her. Having cleared everyone from the wooden house with a thatched roof, Rhea said, "You'll have to forgive them. You look human, but this is the first time they've seen a human who doesn't smell like one." Sitting on the bed and scratching his head, the protagonist felt that his identity was somewhat uncertain thanks to the young fox's words. Now seated and looking at his own hands, Ji-hun commented that he felt the poison's effect had disappeared. Rhea revealed the reason. "You were lucky. We had the antidote for it here in the village." Ji-hun was surprised to hear where he was. He remembered how the foxwoman herself had refused to take them to the village because if she did, everyone would be in danger, and she even tried to cut off her own tongue to avoid being used. Faced with these memories, Ji-hun asked her why she had taken him there, and she replied, "I told you. It's because you're a human, but you don't smell like one." Curious, Kim Ji-hun asked if that was really the only reason. There was another reason Rhea didn't reveal. She had taken him to the village because she saw the feeling that connected him to a monster. Confused, the protagonist thought aloud, "Bringing me to the village, and even giving me an antidote. I guess that's the effect of a friendly monster?" Hearing the human murmur, the foxwoman got irritated. She turned around, growling, "Why are you talking so much? You're annoying even after I saved you." Rizal, who was sleeping on a table nearby, woke up with Ria's shouts. Upon opening his eyes, the little dragon saw an apology. The fox girl stepped back when she saw Ji-hun lower his head, asking him to stop. "You don't have to go that far." Blushing slightly, Ria turned away, clearing her throat to remind the human that he had saved her too, so they were even. While still talking to the fox woman, Ji-hun heard a soft cry and looked to the side. Little Rizeldrak, excited to see his master, jumped happily into his arms. Human and dragon rubbed their faces against each other lovingly. Ria, who heard Ji-hun call the dragon Rizeldrak, grew curious and stopped to think. Putting her hand on her chin, she said aloud, "Come to think of it, we still don't know each other's names, do we? Since fate brought us here, we should at least introduce ourselves." Just as Ria was about to introduce herself for the first time, a rabbit woman opened the door of the wooden house, shouting, "Ria, the village chief is looking for you. He said for you to come with the visitor." Ji-hun looked at the rabbit woman at the door, learning the name of the woman he saved, and who saved him in return. Despite the unexpected turn of events in that wooden house, the pair headed to meet the village chief. Leaving the wooden house, Ji-hun was enchanted by the surroundings, the beastman's village. Inside the mountain range was a small lake, and on the shore's beach, several wooden houses with thatched roofs appeared among the trees. Ria introduced the place to Ji-hun. "This is the village built by the rabbit beastmen, but now, beastmen who lost their own villages are gathering here. We all live together." As they walked, Ria and Ji-hun passed a garden where a rabbit woman harvesting carrots asked, "Ria, how's your leg?" Ria quickly answered she was fine, thanking them for asking. Sometime later, a large bullman carrying several logs on his shoulder also approached Ria. "Ria, I heard you went to the forest where humans pass again." Rolling her eyes at everyone wanting to talk to her, Ria coldly replied she would be more careful. Walking beside Ria, Ji-hun ended up attracting everyone's attention. Excited and unaware of the foxwoman's uneasy look, Ji-hun commented, "Everyone in the village seems to care about you, Ria." However, hearing her monotonous reply, Ji-hun tried to investigate what had happened. "You've seemed down for a while." Ria had been waiting a long time for him to ask. Irritated, she shouted, "Hey, is your name Hey or something? Because you only respond when I call you that." Snorting, Ria put her hands on her hips after revealing her frustration. Finally, Ji-hun realized what he had forgotten to do. Scratching his head while smiling awkwardly, he revealed his identity. "My name is Ji-hun, Kim Ji-hoon. I think that's a pretty uncommon name around here, isn't it?" Faced with his shyness, Ji-hun heard Ria properly introduce herself. "Ria Rindrian Perditi Ceciliad." Turning away, Ria refused to look at Ji-hun, stating that was her name. As she turned, she came across a little rabbit who asked if her leg was okay. Bending down to be at the same level as the rabbit, Ria wagged her tail, smiling. "I got treatment earlier, so it's much better now. By the way, where does your tunnel connect?" After hearing a truly uncommon name, Ji-hun observed its owner, who seemed suddenly cheerful. He felt she just wanted to reveal her own name. Ji-hun ended up looking around the whole village and remembered his main mission, to unite the monsters and create a faction. Amid his thoughts, Ji-hun heard Ria calling him. She waved at him happily. "Hey, what are you doing? Come on, I told you we were going to see the village chief." Seeing the fox girl keep calling him "Hey," Ji-hun wondered why she had asked his name if she would keep calling him that. Hurriedly, Ji-hun ran after the fox woman who urged him to move faster. Thinking about the mission to unite the monsters and create a faction, Ji-hun wondered if he would really be able to accomplish it. It was then that after a brief conversation with the village chief, a rabbit man with a beard and gray hair, Ji-hun heard, "From now on, I will leave the village in your hands." Not only Kim Ji-hun, but even Ria was shocked to hear the tribe chief's intention. Ria hurriedly tried to convince the tribe chief to reconsider, but turning to leave with her crutch, the chief said, resting his hands on his back, "I'm getting old. Someone needs to take care of the village." Still surprised, Ji-hun said he knew nothing about the village. Ria tried to convince him once more. "Just because you had a dream doesn't mean you can entrust the village to him, who just arrived here. Does that make any sense?" Smiling, the old man replied, "In my mind, there is plenty of sense. Ho, ho, ho." Ria ran after the village chief, asking him to reconsider, but the old rabbit had already made his decision. The protagonist kept staring at the elder's back, reflecting on what he had said earlier. When meeting with Ria and Ji-hun, the tribe chief revealed that he often had peculiar dreams, and unexpectedly, those dreams tended to come true. He looked at the young human and declared, "The one who will save our village will be you, and only you." Hearing the old rabbit's words, Ji-hun remembered his mission to build the monster faction, and wondered if the tribe chief's dream was related to that. However, something worried him. If the elder said he should save the tribe, that meant something bad was about to happen. It was then that Ji-hun remembered the bandit leader's words. Their boss had lost something that should be in the Beastman's village. A worried look appeared on Ji-hun's face after recalling everything that had happened in the last few minutes. He immediately called Rhea. Worried, he asked, "When we came here, you weren't followed, were you?" Calm, Rhea revealed how to get to the village. Warren is a village hidden among rocky mountains. It has never been discovered by anyone until now. The foxwoman explained that the reason no one had found the village was that behind the mountains lay the vast ocean. No one dared to cross them or felt the need to do so. She also said the only way to enter Warren was through a tunnel dug by the rabbits. Even if someone found it, the internal structure was so interconnected like a labyrinth that finding the right path to the village would be practically impossible. Rhea claimed she hadn't noticed anything strange when passing through the tunnels. Ji-hun felt a little relieved, but a bad feeling still lingered. Rhea had been careful, but she forgot one detail, her injured leg. In the labyrinths created by the rabbits, a small trail of blood drops formed a path, and at the end of that path, at the entrance to the village Warren, a human smiled maliciously. Finding the village, he murmured with a wicked smile, "I found you." In the valley between mountains where the rabbit village was located, sudden alarm cries rang out. "It's a human! A human! A human has infiltrated Warren!" The alarm cries caught the attention of Ji-hun and Rhea. The bullman who had spoken to Rhea earlier captured the bald old man who had attacked Rhea and Ji-hun before, tying him up. Furious, he roared in the monster language, while several other rabbit men and women watched fearfully. Ji-hun and Rhea followed the bullman's voice. Seeing the bald man, Ji-hun questioned, "So you tracked us here?" The bullman answered for the human. He followed the trail of Rhea's wounds. The foxwoman was shocked, unable to believe she had been tracked all along despite being so careful. The injured young fox apologized to everyone, but no one blamed her for what had happened. The bullman spoke on behalf of everyone present. "You don't need to blame yourself. Carrying a human here with those wounds must have taken a lot out of you. Now that we have captured the intruder, we just need to erase the trail, and then all problems will be solved." The rabbit women also supported Rhea. No one blamed her. Everyone stood by her side. Frowning, the protagonist remembered, "Wait a minute, there were 3 bandits. Where are the other 2? Rejoicing, the bald man roared, "Stupid beasts! Soon this whole place will burn in flames." With a manic smile, he revealed his identity and that of his group. "We are part of a bandit group that even the kingdom gave up on capturing, and we have the first and only Screaming Piercer as our boss. He will be here any minute, leading over 200 of our brothers." The crazed shouts of the bandit echoed throughout the village, frightening those nearby as well as those far away. Frowning, Ji-hun murmured, "Screaming Piercer." In a cave serving as a hideout somewhere in the mountains, the leader of the hunter trio, helped by the muscular man, was heading to fulfill his mission. He bit his lips hard, then shouted bravely, "Boss, no, Big Brother, that guy hit me. Get him for me." The man called Big Brother, who had 2 horns on his cloak, remained silent. The leader of the hunter trio shouted, his face swollen, "I found the fox's den they used to come and go. I'll show the way." The man sitting on the stone wore animal leather clothes and cloaks, decorated with various hunting ornaments. Maliciously, he smiled. "Very well, little brother. We're going to the lair right now." Hearing the leader's words, Big Brother smiled happily, as he would get his revenge. At the same time, the bald old man told the beastmen, "I wasn't the only one who got here. All of this was part of the boss's plan." Some time ago, during the escape, the carried man shouted to stop running. The bald man and the muscular man wanted to give the leader of the trio a beating, but he confidently said, "It's not time to return to the hideout yet. This is our moment." With that, they returned to watch the foxwoman and the human suffering from the poison. Having told how they found the beastmen's village, he laughed. "Soon you will all become a doormat." Still incredulous, Rhea asked, "What is he talking about?" She hurriedly looked at Ji-hun, who had a serious expression. The protagonist was cold as he confirmed what was happening. The bandits already knew the village's location and would arrive any moment. Upon hearing this, even Ji-hun, Rhea Rindrian, fell into incredulous denial. Ji-hun remembered who the Screaming Piercer was, a somehow familiar name. In Knight Defense, it was possible to gain experience by fighting waves of monsters attacking the kingdom, thus leveling up knights who would become stronger. However, leveling up like that wasn't enough to survive all waves. Therefore, the game had another system, that of adventurers. It was possible to choose knights to send on missions and clear stages. Clearing these stages would provide various items, such as equipment and gold. These stages started at level 1 of the first phase, Remnants of Wild Goblins, and went up to level 10 of the 10th phase, the Dark Lord's Fortress, totaling 10 stages. Ji-hun didn't remember the name of each stage, but vaguely recalled the final parts of Stage 1, Phase 10. It was located in the Screaming Piercer's hideout, a village hidden behind a rocky wall. Thinking a bit more, Ji-hun remembered each stage had a small backstory. He didn't read them all, but one thing was certain. He had never seen a stage called Warren in that place. According to the game's story, that place, that village was doomed to be destroyed. Smiling maliciously, the bald man spoke again. "Let me make one last offer. Whoever lets me go, I will ask the boss to spare him." He tried to stand, making an offer that would cause discord among the beastmen. Although the beastmen didn't understand what he was saying, his words were already spreading. Reaching everyone's ears, the beastmen began to worry, and the echo of fear started to spread. Rhea lowered her head, blaming herself again. "Because of me, Warren. Our village. It's all because of me." Ji-hun became worried, because if nothing was done, the beastmen would be wiped out, and Warren would become the bandits' new base. Furious, the bald man started shouting, "I said untie me!" But Ji-hun wouldn't let their plan succeed. He wouldn't let this become the Screaming Piercer's base. Ji-hun began walking toward the shouting bald man, keeping a grim look. His ultimate goal was one: to make that beastmen's village the monster faction's center. Seeing the human boy he had met earlier, the bald old man was relieved. "Hey, you showed up just in time. Hurry up and translate for me." Ji-hun clenched his fist, as strong as the fortress he would build in that place, hitting the shiny bald head which, like a bowling ball, hit the ground. The bull man stood still, seeing the young man suddenly attack the other human. Even the rabbit men were left speechless. Rhea put her hands over her mouth, hiding her surprise at Ji-hun's attack. Leaving the bald man toothless, Ji-hun shouted, "I've heard enough of this nonsense." Looking at all the beastmen, he summoned them. "Let's fight. We have to protect Warren no matter what." Even Rhea, who had brought the young human there only a few hours ago, was shocked by his attitude. The bullman, however, thought it would be impossible. Standing beside Ji-hun, he asked the young man to look around. "We built this village hidden behind the rocky mountain because we are weak." Women and children made up most of the village members. These were people who had never fought a real battle in their lives, much less against a gang. When everyone seemed sad, the village chief approached, laughing. "You've always been a smart one, haven't you?" With everyone gathered, the village chief announced, "From today, Ji-hun will be the new chief of Warren." Unexpectedly, he conveyed to everyone what he had already told Rhea. At the same time, several humans wearing boots and leather clothes followed the path indicated by those who had found the fox's den. Moving forward along the indicated path, the piercer asked, "Is this the place?" Excited, the leader of the bandit trio smiled. "That's right. Just keep going, boss." Seeing the mountain on the other side of the forest, the little hunter said, "There's a village hidden behind that rock wall." Liking the location, the gang leader announced, "Let's go take this place. This will be the new base of the Screaming Piercer's gang." Excitedly, the whole gang followed the leader, raising their swords, axes, and knives, ready to eliminate everything in their path. Ji-hun met with the bull man, who noted, "The bandits' strength is estimated at 200 members. In comparison, Warren's battle strength, including me, is 3 bullmen." Writing on a paper, he counted the others. "Besides us, there are also 2 deer men, 5 sheep, 1 fox woman, and finally 101 rabbit men. In total, there are 112 members capable of fighting." Counting all the troops, the bullman asked Ji-hun if there was a chance of victory. Thinking they would be against double the number they had, the protagonist tried to find a way to fight. This wouldn't be an ordinary battle. In games, what really matters isn't the number of individuals, but the stats of each individual, their ranks and levels. Rhea might have been ambushed earlier, but she still took down a hunter with a single attack. Ji-hun imagined that although a 3-against-1 fight would be difficult for Rhea, she could easily win against 2 opponents. The bullman had said the beastmen had never fought before. However, Ji-hun thought that despite that, he might be underestimating such beings with a feral form. Their power might not be as weak as they thought. Ji-hun imagined that if everyone had strength on the same level as Rhea, the numbers problem could be overcome. Ji-hun then turned. "Hey, bull!" And immediately the bullman corrected him. "My name is Tower Brimlock." Ji-hun changed his phrase. "Tower, based on Warren's numbers, where would you rank Rhea in terms of strength?" Ji-hun excitedly thought this initial mission couldn't be so impossible. He waited for Tower's answer, who pondered how to describe Rhea. They looked at the foxwoman, who was currently playing with a small little dragon. Ji-hun unexpectedly heard the answer he didn't want. "She is the strongest warrior in Warren. Even if everyone in Warren gathered to attack her, Rhea would still defeat them all." Faced with Tower's words, Ji-hun saw his dark and difficult mission ahead. Ji-hun's soul left his body, because that meant that if everyone together couldn't defeat her, they were practically useless. While they were talking, Rhea revealed that she expected the humans to arrive only at nightfall at the cave entrance, which made Ji-hun a bit more relieved since they had some extra time. However, the protagonist was still confused about how she had discovered this. Rhea ended up pointing to the bald man tied to a tree. His face, swollen like a bowling ball, showed that the foxwoman had forced him to talk. Seeing what she had done, Ji-hun commented, "As expected from Warren's best warrior." Pausing to think about what the lazy man had said, Ji-hun knew their leader had lost something, so he asked Rhea if she had any idea what it could be. He suggested it should be something precious, maybe passed down through generations, or some mineral resource hidden in Warren. Rhea showed the small village where the beastmen lived after losing their homes. There was nothing the humans could collect in that place. Frowning, Ji-hun ended up believing the humans just wanted an excuse to attack the beastmen. Tower, interrupting the conversation, asked Ji-hun, "Village chief, what do we do now? Everyone is waiting." Faced with Tower's question, Ji-hun became thoughtful. To overcome the numerical disadvantage, individuals with high stats and ranks were necessary. The strongest in Warren was the foxwoman Rhea, and below her were 111 beastmen who couldn't even defeat her, even if they attacked together. Still, the question remained, could Rhea defeat 111 people? Ji-hun didn't know if the rabbits were weak or if Rhea was very strong. She would at least like to see their exact ranks and stats, like in games, to compare and get an idea. Amid Ji-hun's thoughts, he realized he had forgotten something. He possessed the ability Sovereign's Eye, a skill he could use to access monster and item stats, but he didn't know exactly how to use that ability. Thinking about other virtual games, Ji-hun remembered that protagonists usually said the word status to open the stats window. Extending his hand, he did the same, shouting, "Status!" However, nothing appeared before him, making the atmosphere a bit awkward. Frustration and shyness appeared in Ji-hun's eyes at his failure. He really thought it would work, since when he said the word inventory last time, an inventory actually appeared. Trying to use inventory again, a window opened before him. As expected, that inventory was completely empty. However, something there caught Kim Ji-hun's attention. Instead of inventory, it was named Abyss Slot. Apparently, since he was in the monster faction, even the inventory's name had changed. With every passing moment, Ji-hun remembered more important things. He recalled that when escaping the palace, he had forgotten some things because relentless, untimely events happened. Ji-hun had forgotten his sword, the item he obtained from the chest. The sword was in the castle when all the chaos happened. The protagonist gritted his teeth and bit his lips, because due to the castle's collapse, he ended up leaving the sword behind in the middle of the kingdom. He blamed the damn game for not returning the sword to his inventory automatically. However, Ji-hun could no longer go to the kingdom to retrieve his sword. Although regrettable, there was nothing he could do now. Putting all that aside, Ji-hun still wondered why the inventory hadn't appeared. He wondered if there was another method for that. So far, he had learned 4 passive skills. The first, Sovereign's Eye. The second, Monster Communication. The third, Friendly Monster. And lastly, Monstrous Physique. Except for Sovereign's Eye, the other passive skills seemed to remain active since their first use. Seeing Ji-hun thinking endlessly, Rhea became nervous and scolded him. "How long are you going to keep thinking? I need to do something quickly. The enemies keep approaching." The foxwoman lowered her head, her ears drooping, reinforcing the frustration in her voice. "Please, give me some instructions. This happened because of me. I want to protect Warren. I want to protect the villagers." Ji-hun stared at the girl who felt guilty about the situation and remembered time was urgent, precious. He quickly put aside his obsession with the stats window and checking stats. One of his eyes immediately created a magic circle as he looked at the foxwoman in front of him. Ji-hun, without even realizing it, designated Rhea as the target of Sovereign's Eye. Before he could think further, a red holographic window appeared before him. That's when he realized that the inventory was a system function to check the items he possessed. That's why it only opened when he thought about it. But the Sovereign's Eye skill checked the stats of monsters and items. Thinking about it, Ji-hun realized everything was much simpler than it seemed. To activate the passive skill Sovereign's Eye, he only needed to designate a target for the stats to be checked and think about their stats. Checking Rhea's stats, Ji-hun discovered she was rank B, something impressive. This brought some excitement to Ji-hun's eyes, since a rank B character would be on the same level as average knights. Rhea was a higher rank than he had imagined. Checking other information about Rhea, Ji-hun found out she was a water-type monster, close combat. Her stats were focused on attack power. Finally, Rhea's skill was bestial transformation. As Ji-hun had already guessed, Rhea approached Ji-hun, trying to look him in the eyes, although still downcast. "Ji-hun, I know you might be upset about becoming the village chief, but are you listening to me?" Paying little attention to her, focused on the stats window, Ji-hun replied monotonously, "Yes." Checking the stats, Ji-hun found a heart symbol with the number 40 next to it and wondered what it was. Ji-hun clicked the heart symbol out of curiosity. Unexpectedly, the number next to it began to change, dropping to 35. That's when Ji-hun realized what he was doing. His finger had pressed Rhea's nose, who, previously sad and worried, became tremendously angry. "I'm speaking sincerely in front of you, but you're joking? Are you really the one we trusted with Warren's fate as village chief?" Ji-hun quickly stepped back, trying to apologize. No, I didn't do it on purpose. However, the foxwoman didn't accept that lame excuse and jumped on him with claws and teeth. Ji-hun's scream echoed throughout the rabbit village. Sometime later, Rhea fled after punishing Ji-hun, allowing Tower to approach. Seeing the bull man, Ji-hun asked, "Tower, gather all the villagers here." Tower was about to ask why Ji-hun had scratch marks on his face when the young man reassured him, "I'm fine, please, ha ha ha." All 111 villagers lined up in front of Ji-hun, who checked their stats one by one. Finally, the last beastman, a sheep, stood before Ji-hun. The protagonist sighed, holding his forehead. Checking stats while looking at each person one by one really drained my stamina. Including him and Rizeldrak, Warren's population reached 114. Among them, the highest rank was definitely Rizeldrak himself. Using Sovereign's Eye on his small summon, Ji-hun checked his stats. For an S-rank monster, Rizel's basic attack seemed very low, but everything was concentrated on his magic attack and magic defense, as well as his skill Dragon's Breath. The problem was that this skill consumed all mana points at once, and even after half a day had passed, only half of the little dragon's mana had recovered. This meant Rizel could only use one attack every 2 days, and in this battle, Dragon's Breath couldn't be used. The strength Ji-hun had available now was a rank B, Rhea, and a rank C, Tar. All other members of Warren Village were incredibly rank E. Saying that, gathered, they couldn't defeat Rhea made sense now. Compared to Kingdom Knights, a rank D was a knight apprentice, and rank E didn't even exist in their rankings. Ji-hun didn't know the bandit's rank, but remembered that the difficulty of clearing level 10 of the first stage was around rank C. After checking everyone's rank and understanding the situation, Ji-hun stood up. The number of troops was 114 against 200. Moreover, in terms of troop quality, items, or any other factor, Warren was not ahead in any. Clenching his fist tightly, Ji-hun felt protecting Warren would be impossible. However, he reminded himself this wasn't a game. He was now facing reality. Many things could exist here, things that didn't appear in games. Imagining he could create variables, Ji-hun looked at the village entrance in the mountain. Determined, he announced, "Tower, I will tell you the strategy we will follow from now on." While Ji-hun prepared the plan with Tower, the bandit group continued crossing the forest toward the rocky mountain. Leading the group was the screaming piercer, with his coat full of horns. What they didn't know was that in the forest, some rabbits were hiding, watching their arrival. A pair of rabbits, hidden, nodded to each other. "Let's go back quickly and inform the village chief. These guys will arrive at the entrance soon." However, before they could do anything, one of them was hit. The young rabbit looked to the side, still incredulous at what had happened to her brother. With an angry look, after throwing a throwing knife, the gang leader questioned, "Do they know we're coming?" The young rabbit, her face stained red, still couldn't believe what she saw. She bit her lower lip, refusing to believe it, but made the right decision. Transforming into a rabbit, she ran quickly, fleeing from the bandits and entering the forest. The bandits were about to chase her when the gang leader raised his hand, ordering them to stop. That man who had led them there asked surprised, "Brother, no, boss. Are we going after them? You're going to let them go?" With a look mixing a malicious smile and a bandit's fury, the gang leader replied, "I'm not going to let them go. I'm going to infect them all." At the same time, inside the tunnels, Ji-hun hurriedly instructed, "Team 2, hurry up! Team 1, that way!" Before him, rabbits dug hurriedly, while bullmen carried pieces of wood and iron, and many others helped too. At that moment, the little rabbit arrived at the cave entrance. Her arrival caught Ji-hun's attention. Before entering, she jumped, shouting so even Tor could hear, "The humans!" Seeing the red marks on the rabbit's face, Rhea was surprised. Bravely, the little rabbit brought the news. "The humans are here!" Ji-hun unexpectedly began to tremble. However, remembering that he was the player who blocked 100 waves, he clenched his fist firmly. This would be his first defense in the monster faction, and that was why he wouldn't allow his defense to be broken. In a short time, the gang of bandits reached the entrance of the labyrinth. In front of the cave, the leader, Screaming Piercer, asked, "So this is the fox's den?" Next to him, the muscular man confirmed, holding a paper in his hand that indicated the way. Entering the cave, the gang leader shouted, "Let's finish this before the sun sets!" At a fork, Rhea and Ji-hun watched the gang start to enter. Worried, the fox asked, "Will the plan work?" Hiding beside her, Ji-hun warned that the beginning would be crucial for the operation to succeed. Unaware they were being watched, Furador's group advanced fearlessly. With a map, the muscular bandit headed towards a tunnel, commenting, "At this pace, we'll reach the village in 30 minutes. The gang leader found it strange that everything was so quiet, but confident. The man who had planned everything reassured him. "Those stupid bastards are probably shaking while hiding in the village right now." Irritated, he shouted, "That bastard who punched me, I'll deal with him personally." As they walked, the same man who had been hit earlier by Ji-hun noticed something strange with the ground. There was a sound coming from underneath. As soon as everyone stopped, unexpectedly, huge cracks appeared on the ground beneath their feet. Before the group could run, the ground collapsed, making the bandits fall, screaming desperately. The bandits at the back were not affected by the collapse and only saw the dust curtain fill the entire cave ahead. Furador had not fallen into the trap, even helping his younger brother by holding his arm. At the bottom of the crater, the various bandits who had fallen were injured from landing on logs and stones. The gang leader descended to the bottom of the pit, angry. Those bastards set a trap. He looked around. The trap had been made by digging holes in the ground, covering them with wooden planks, and then placing a layer of soil on top. When a certain weight was applied to the planks, the supports would collapse, making the victims fall into the hole. Frowning, the muscular man asked his partner, "When we came yesterday, were there traps like these here?" Imagining that other traps might also have been set, the duo realized it would be very dangerous. Seeing the gang leader move forward, one of the bandits tried to warn him, "There may be more traps." However, surprising everyone, the leader snorted. "Idiots!" Going to a corner of the cave, he unexpectedly lifted with one hand a rock bigger than his own body. As if it were made of styrofoam, he threw it forward. The big stone fell on a hidden trap, destroying it and surprising everyone. The group leader revealed how he knew where the trap was. "These are artificial tunnels dug into the stone mountain. The original ground should be solid rock." Looking at the path ahead, which changed the type of soil every few meters, he continued, "Even if they dug holes, covered them with wood, and then put layers of soil and stones on top, you can still notice the difference if you observe carefully." Following the gang leader's instructions, everyone stopped to analyze the terrain as he had indicated. They began to notice some areas had more gravel than others, and those were precisely the ones with traps, rudimentary tricks made by primitive species. Seeing such traps made the gang leader, who had a huge scar on his forehead, extremely satisfied because it proved something. Maybe carnivores would fall for this, but semi-human herbivores are weak. These traps prove their weakness. Ordering some men to stay behind to rescue the wounded, the gang leader commanded, "We will advance while avoiding the traps." From where she was, Rhea saw the bandits start to avoid them, becoming worried. However, Jihun was confident. Clenching his fist, he celebrated, "Just as planned." Surprised, Rhea asked if that was part of his plan. Jihun explained the reason. Digging through solid rock, even with demi-human strength enhancements, would take a long time, and perfectly hiding the holes was impossible in such a short time. With a smile, he revealed, "I figured those rush traps wouldn't work more than once for anyone with half a brain." Seeing the bandits' group advance while avoiding the areas with disturbed gravel, he revealed the truth. There are only 2 deep pit traps. The rest are fake, just to buy time for the next phase. Making them worry about traps will slow their march by at least half. Hearing the full explanation of the first part of Jihun's plan, Rhea couldn't help but show her surprise. Now that they had confirmed the success of the first part, Jihun called her to go to the next location. Meanwhile, beside the labyrinth entrance, a digging sound became more evident. Soon, one of the walls began to crack. At the same time, unaware of what was happening, the gang continued advancing through the tunnels. Next to the captain, the muscular man guided him. "At the fork ahead, take the right path and you'll reach the destination." Looking for the fork, the group leader was confused. There wasn't just one fork ahead, but 3 different paths, something the duo who had passed earlier hadn't seen. In the midst of the confusion, the man who had lost the fight to Jihun pointed to some herbs. "I saw those herbs. They were on the left side, right, or on the right side?" Confused, the muscular man replied, "I think they were on the right side." However, the group leader didn't care about the different paths. "They may know about traps and fragile illusions, but that won't stop us." Understanding that the extra cave was only meant to buy time, the leader was undeterred. He imagined the beastmen were preparing something in the village and therefore needed to hurry to stop them. In front of the 3 tunnels, he declared, "Let's split into 3 groups and advance quickly." Brother Crane, the bandit who had lost to Jihun, took the left tunnel. The middle tunnel was assigned to the muscular man, Dump, and some henchmen. The group leader with the rest of the gang took the right path where the grasses were. Crane's group advanced quickly but soon found the path blocked, meaning they had chosen the wrong route and would need to go back. Dump, on the other hand, found light as he advanced through the cave. Immediately he grabbed his hammer and ordered, "We must be on the right path. Everyone, prepare for battle." At the same moment, the gang leader, screaming Piercer, with the rest of his men, also found the cave exit. He smiled maliciously, "To think I was the one who chose the right path. These guys really had no luck." Stretching his muscles, he ordered his gang, "Show no mercy. Finish them all." Furiously, Dump and his group advanced with hammers and swords raised. On the other side, Screaming Piercer did the same, but was soon surprised upon reaching the cave exit. Unexpectedly, he came face to face with the forest where it had all begun. Screaming Piercer had taken the tunnel made by the rabbit men, which went around the mountain and returned to the starting point. At the same time, the correct path revealed itself to be the one taken by Dump. As soon as he spotted the village, he raised his hand. "Hold position." Intelligently, Dump ordered a subordinate to return through the tunnel to inform the leader and vice leader which was the correct path. While observing the village terrain, one of Dump's subordinates pointed to a region. "Brother, look there!" To their surprise, they found Cargo, the bald man, tied to a tree. Dozens of bandits quickly advanced to the gagged old man, exclaiming with irritation and indignation, "Those bastard monsters! Cargo, are you okay?" Dump quickly removed the cloth from his friend's mouth, who hurriedly asked, "Where are the leader and vice leader?" He looked around, confused. "Why are our numbers so low? Only these remain?" Meanwhile, the only bandit sent by Dump to return was running hurriedly, but before he realized it, something hit his face. Receiving a kick from Rhea, he flew and crashed against one of the stone walls. Coughing heavily, he wouldn't be able to reveal anything yet. Ji-hun's final plan had worked, bringing confidence to him and Rhea. First, they had used fake traps to buy time, altering the terrain to create confusion. Such simple traps, however, would make the enemy underestimate them and divide their forces. Cargo, now free, shouted at Dump, "You divided into groups of 60? That's not enough. We are surrounded." Dump looked around and finally realized that what was once an advantage had now become a disadvantage. In the trees surrounding the village entrance, several beastmen were lurking. Now, it was a fight of 113 against 60. Ji-hun and Rhea soon appeared at the village entrance. As soon as he saw the group of 60 invaders, Ji-hun commanded, "All units, advance!" Immediately, all more than 100 members of the village, from rabbits, sheep, and bullmen, charged against the invaders. There, Ji-hun's true strategy began. As soon as he saw the beastmen, Dump Bradayu raised his large stone hammer. "Eliminate them all!" Under Dump's leadership, all 60 bandits advanced against the small, unarmed beastmen. Dump raised his axe against Little Rain, who faced him bravely. Just as the face-to-face clash was about to begin, Ji-hun shouted, "Now! All units use the beast transformation!" Dump's attack missed its target, who transformed into a small rabbit, hitting the ground and raising a curtain of dust. Shocked, Dump couldn't believe the beast girl had disappeared. A large smoke curtain quickly spread across the battlefield. When the beastmen transformed, smoke was produced. Ji-hun had noticed this earlier and believed they could use it as a strategy during the battle. He basically put into practice a smokescreen tactic. As the invading group was in the middle of the smoke, Ji-hun moved to the next step, making use of Tauros. The large bullman lifted a gigantic stone and, with furious eyes, ran towards the humans. Tauros threw the large stone, which, like a bowling ball, knocked the invaders away or crushed them. Some small rabbits also moved, attacking amid the smoke. One of the invaders was chosen as a target by the rabbits, who put their hands out of the ground to grab his legs. Frozen, the invader couldn't escape when 2 rabbits jumped toward him. The rabbits kicked his cheeks and, with the strong kick, knocked him unconscious. While the rabbits attacked from one side, deer with their antlers attacked from the other. One group of invaders, however, managed to target a sheep, kicking her repeatedly, but they soon realized the attacks caused no damage to her. The sheep, protected by her thick wool, felt no pain but still cried out of fear. On another side, several invaders were hit by small fireballs that burned their heads and arms as they fell from the sky. Rizeldrak attacked as best he could, causing minimal damage but at least disturbing the invaders' mentality. Kim Ji-hun, next to Rhea at the village entrance, observed the battle. With numerical superiority and surprise attacks using the smoke, they had managed to increase their advantage. Victory was definitely approaching. Soon, Ji-hun heard an irritated voice. "Who are you mocking?" The bald man named Cargo had obtained a hand crossbow with his subordinates, who also protected him. From where he was, Cargo tried to shoot arrows at the small rabbits hiding in the tunnels, avoiding the clubs of the other invaders. Seeing that side needed help, Ji-hun asked Rhea to assist them. Rhea seemingly disappeared, leaving only a trail of wind behind. The protagonist was surprised by the foxwoman's speed. Even with her injured leg, she ran quickly toward Cargo and his guards. Cargo immediately aimed an arrow at the foxwoman, intending to take her down first. The arrow was fired, whistling through the air toward Rhea. The young fox saw the arrow just centimeters from her eyes, but in the split second before being hit, she moved her body to the side, perfectly dodging it. Rhea put her hand on the ground, helping to change her body's direction. She spun her body and leg, preparing a heavy kick. Rhea's kick descended like a hammer on one of the invaders, who protected himself by raising his arms. Having successfully blocked the attack, he smiled maliciously. "Is that all you got?" The foxwoman moved quickly, returning to the ground. This time, with a high kick, she hit the invader's chin, lifting him off the ground. The invader lost consciousness, as well as several teeth from that attack. Rhea moved quickly, disappearing and reappearing in front of another of Cargo's guards. This time, with a knee strike, she made him fall to the ground. Soon, Cargo saw his 2 guards fall, one on each side of him, and growled, "What are you doing?" While still grinding his teeth angrily, he saw the foxwoman stand before him. When he looked to the side, by reflex, Cargo saw a foot. Rhea executed her move perfectly, hitting the hunter once again. With a swollen face and losing more teeth, Cargo no longer dared to speak. He couldn't, as he fainted along with his henchmen. Firmly, Rhea warned, "Don't underestimate us anymore." Dump, one of the last standing, saw how his subordinates had been captured or were being captured. He clenched his fist furiously. Grinding his teeth, he used an ability he hadn't used before. Unexpectedly, Dump's arm, the one he clenched, began to grow, his muscles swelling at a frightening speed. Jihoon was surprised to see the muscular man using an ability. He didn't know exactly how monster abilities worked, but in Knight Defense, only rank C Knights or higher could use them. Dump, a rank C character, used the ability Body Strengthening. Growing in size, Dump's attack and defense increased by 50%. Dump walked toward the rabbits, who were stunned by his size. Furious, he growled at his own subordinates. "Pathetic idiots, losing to mere tiny monsters." But at that moment, an even larger shadow appeared above Dump, speaking the monster tongue. "Weakling!" A gigantic hand grabbed a tree, ripping it from the ground. Dump looked back and unexpectedly faced a bull man twice his height, and with muscle circumference several times larger than his own. Dump's eyes turned white from surprise. The bullman's attack fell on the invader, creating a large shockwave that spread throughout the village. Feeling the wind created by the attack reach the village entrance, Jihoon was left speechless. Inside the tunnels, Crane was waiting. After several minutes without response, he was already grinding his teeth, wondering how much longer he would have to wait. Crane's group had returned to the forks and questioned each other why none of the other 2 groups had returned yet. Sighing, he made a decision. "We don't need to worry about the leader, so let's take the path Dump took." While Crane decided to advance to check what Dump was doing, the latter and his group of 60 had been captured. All 60 invaders, along with Cargo, were buried in the ground like a carrot plantation. The only difference was that they had been gagged, like mandrakes. After laughing at the situation, Jihoon seriously asked Taros how many casualties they had suffered. With his notebook in hand, the bullman noted, 23 severely injured. They won't be able to fight. Another 42 had minor injuries and can continue fighting. A certain concern appeared in Jihoon's eyes. That had been a fight of 113 against 60. Even with almost double the people, half of the village's forces were down, despite the operation's success. However, Jihoon was confident they would not be defeated, although the remaining enemies still outnumbered them. Now, besides numerical superiority, by fighting smaller groups, the beastman's strength would increase. Jihoon called the bullman, Tauros, and commanded, "Quickly, distribute all the human weapons we just obtained to our troops."